October 15th, 2023, 2:30 in the afternoon. That's when I finally pressed play. 32 years. That's how long I carried the weight of a lie that wasn't mine to carry. But when you're a Black woman in America and your own mother tells your children you tried to kill her, the world doesn't ask for your side of the story. They just believe her. My name is Dorothy Williams, and I'm 85 years old. For 3 decades, my children thought I was a monster. Today, I played them the recording that proves I never was. You see, people think family secrets die with the people who keep them. They don't. They multiply. They spread through generations like poison in well water. And the person who gets blamed for the poison, it's usually the one who tried to stop it in the first place. That was me. The one who tried to save everyone and ended up being painted as the villain. 1991. Ronald was 4, Keisha was 7, and Michael was 10. 3 beautiful babies who looked at me like I hung the moon and painted the stars. Back then, we lived in a little 2-bedroom house on Maple Street in Detroit. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. I worked double shifts at the hospital. Ronald Sr. worked at the Ford plant, and Mama lived with us because she said she had nowhere else to go. That should have been my first warning. A 70-year-old woman who burned every bridge she ever built doesn't suddenly become helpless. But I was raised to respect my elders, to take care of family, to never turn my back on blood. So when Mama showed up with her 2 suitcases and her sob story about losing her apartment, I opened my door. I opened my heart, and I opened my home to the woman who would destroy my family. The first few months were fine. Mama helped with the kids, cooked Sunday dinner, told them stories about the old days. Ronald loved sitting on her lap while she braided Keisha's hair. Michael would bring her his homework, proud when she'd nod approval at his math problems. They adored her. And she used that love like a weapon. It started small, little comments. Your mama works so much she don't have time for you. If it wasn't for me, nobody would be here when you get home from school. Your daddy works hard all day, and then your mama makes him work some more when he gets home. Whispers in their ears while I was cooking dinner. Poison dripped so slowly I didn't notice until it had already spread. By winter, things changed. The kids stopped running to me when I came home. They'd hug Mama first. When I'd ask about their day, they'd give me short answers, but tell her everything. When I'd try to discipline them, they'd run to her room, and she'd comfort them. Tell them Mama was just stressed, that she'd protect them from mean old Mama. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're still here, maybe you understand what it feels like when your own children start looking at you like a stranger. The fact that you're still listening tells me you know that particular kind of heartbreak. Subscribe if you want to hear the rest. Ronald Sr. saw it too, but he didn't know what to do. She's your mama, Dorothy. I can't tell you to throw out your own mama. But he'd watch her poison our children and shake his head. He'd see me crying at the kitchen table after the kids chose her bedtime stories over mine. And he'd rub my shoulders and whisper, "This can't go on forever." He was wrong. It got worse. By spring of '91, Mama had convinced my children that I didn't love them, that I was jealous of the attention they gave her, that I was mean to her when they weren't around. And the saddest part, they believed her. Because children want to believe the adult who gives them candy instead of vegetables, who lets them stay up late instead of enforcing bedtime, who tells them they're perfect instead of teaching them right from wrong. Mama was the fun grandparent. I was the mean mother, and she made sure they saw it that way. The breaking point came on a Tuesday, May 7th, 1991. I remember because it was the day before Michael's school play, and I had taken off work early to help him practice his lines. When I walked into the house, I heard Mama talking to the kids in the living room. Her voice was different, sharper, more urgent. I stopped in the hallway and listened, and that's when I heard her say the words that would haunt me for 32 years. Y'all need to be careful around your mama. She's been acting strange lately, real strange. Yesterday, she grabbed my arm so hard it left a bruise. And last night, I woke up and found her standing over my bed, just staring at me. She had this look in her eyes, like she wanted to hurt me. My blood turned to ice. The kids were silent. And then Keisha's little voice asked, "Grandmama, you think Mama wants to hurt you?" And Mama, my own mother, the woman I sacrificed everything to take care of, said, "Baby, I think your mama might try to kill me." I stood in that hallway paralyzed. My own mother was telling my children that I, the woman who worked 16-hour days to keep a roof over all their heads, wanted to murder her. And they were listening, believing, absorbing this poison like little sponges. That night, I confronted her. After the kids went to bed, I sat her down at the kitchen table and asked her why she would say such things. And you know what she did? She smiled, actually smiled, and said, "Dorothy, these kids need to know who you really are. You've been pretending to be their sweet mama, but I see the real you, the angry you, the violent you." I wasn't violent. I had never been violent. But Mama, she had been painting a picture for months, telling them about my temper, about how I lost control when I was stressed, about how she was scared of what I might do. None of it was true. But truth doesn't matter when someone has been crafting lies for months with the patience of a master manipulator. The next day, Mama escalated. She called my sister Linda and told her she was afraid for her life, that I had threatened her, that she needed somewhere safe to stay. Linda called me screaming about how I could threaten an old woman. How dare I make Mama feel unsafe in our home? When I tried to explain what really happened, Linda cut me off. "Mama doesn't lie, Dorothy. She's old and scared, and you're acting crazy." That afternoon, Mama took the kids to the park. When they came back, Michael wouldn't look at me. Keisha hid behind Mama's dress, and 4-year-old Ronald, my baby, pointed at me and said, "Bad Mama." That night, I knew I had to do something. So I made a decision that would save my sanity, but cost me my family for 3 decades. I bought a small tape recorder One of those little handheld ones they sold at Radio Shack. I hid it in the kitchen cabinet behind the flour canister, and I waited. Someone once told me there are rules that change after 60. One of them says that sacrifice without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. I wish I'd known that 30 years ago. I was sacrificing my relationship with my children to protect a woman who was destroying us all from the inside. If you want to know what those rules are, it's in the description. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, Mama was at it again. This time she was talking to Mrs. Johnson from next door, who had come over to borrow some sugar. They were standing right in the kitchen, 3 feet from where the recorder was hidden. And Mama was performing. That's the only word for it, performing. I don't know what's gotten into Dorothy, she said, her voice shaky and afraid. Yesterday she grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me, told me if I didn't stop talking to the kids, she was going to make me stop permanently. I've been too scared to sleep. I keep thinking she might, do something to me in the night. Mrs. Johnson gasped. Dorothy would never. That's what I thought too, Mama interrupted. But you didn't see her face, the rage in her eyes. She looked like she wanted to kill me. I'm scared, Helen. I'm really scared. Every word was a lie. Every gesture was calculated. Every tremble in her voice was theatrical. But Mrs. Johnson bought it, just like everyone else would. That recording captured 15 minutes of my mother destroying my reputation with surgical precision. And when it was over, she laughed, actually laughed, and said, "That should do it." But I had it all on tape, the lies, the manipulation, the laugh, everything. The next morning, I confronted her with the recording, played it right there at the kitchen table while she drank her coffee. And you know what happened? She didn't deny it, didn't apologize, didn't show 1 ounce of shame. Instead, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You think anybody's going to believe that tape over what they see with their own eyes? You think your children are going to choose you over their loving grandmama who's been nothing but sweet to them?" Then she stood up, walked to her room, and packed her bags. But before she left, she gathered my children around her, held them close, and with tears streaming down her face, she told them that Mama had threatened to kill her and she couldn't stay in the house anymore, that she loved them, but she had to leave before something terrible happened. Michael cried. Keisha begged her not to go. And Ronald, my baby, asked why Mama was so mean to Grandmama. I tried to explain. Tried to tell them it wasn't true, tried to play them the recording, but they were 8, 5, and 2 years old. All they understood was that Grandmama was crying, Mama was angry, and the woman who gave them cookies and bedtime stories was leaving because of me. Mama moved in with Linda, and within a week the whole family knew the story. Dorothy had threatened to kill Mama. Dorothy had lost her mind. Dorothy couldn't be trusted around vulnerable people. The recording sat in my jewelry box for 32 years. I played it sometimes, late at night, when the weight of their disappointment got too heavy. When my children grew up, still believing I was capable of hurting their beloved grandmother. When they moved away and barely called. When they had children of their own and didn't trust me to babysit. For 32 years, I lived with the consequences of Mama's lies. She died in 2019, taking her secrets with her, or so everyone thought. But I still had that recording. And last month, when Michael's daughter asked him why Grandmama Dorothy seemed so sad all the time, why we weren't close like other families, why there was always this tension at family gatherings, he finally asked me directly, Mama, what really happened with Grandmama back then? So I invited them all over. Michael, now 42, Keisha, 39, Ronald, 36, all grown, all successful, all still carrying the scar of believing their mother was capable of murder. I set up my old tape player on the dining room table, the same table where we used to eat Sunday dinner before Mama came to live with us, before everything changed, before I became the villain in my own children's story. They sat there, skeptical, waiting for another one of Mama's explanations that never quite made sense. Another attempt to rewrite history, another plea for them to understand. Instead, I pressed play, and for 15 minutes they heard their beloved Grandmama's voice, heard her craft lie after lie, heard her laugh about manipulating their neighbor, heard her plan to destroy their mother's reputation, heard the truth they had been too young to see 32 years ago. The silence when it ended was deafening. Michael stared at the recorder like it was speaking a foreign language. Keisha covered her mouth with her hands. Ronald, my baby, now a 36-year-old father himself, looked at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, Mama, I'm so sorry. Everything I learned about patience, about sacrifice, about trust, it's all in something called the 60-year rule. 9 rules that reverse after 60. I wish someone had given me this 20 years ago. It explains why I sacrificed my relationship with my children to protect someone who was destroying us. Why I stayed silent for so long. Why I let her lies define me for 3 decades. The link is right below this video. But that apology didn't erase 32 years. Didn't give me back the bedtime stories I missed reading to their children because they didn't trust me alone with them. Didn't undo the family gatherings where I sat at the edge of conversations, always feeling like an outsider in my own family. Didn't heal the wound of watching my children love a woman who had systematically destroyed their love for me. We're healing now, slowly. They understand what happened. They see how Mama manipulated all of us. They're angry at themselves for believing her for so long. But mostly, they're angry at her for stealing 32 years of closeness from our family. Michael brings his kids over every Sunday now. They call me Grandmama and sit on my lap while I read them stories. Keisha calls me every day, sometimes just to say she loves me. Ronald, my baby, hugs me every time he sees me, like he's trying to make up for all the hugs he didn't give me when he thought I was dangerous. But here's what I want you to understand. That recording didn't just prove Mama lied. It proved something much more important. It proved that sometimes The person your family blames for everything is actually the person who tried to save everyone. Sometimes the person who gets painted as the villain is the one who refused to participate in the dysfunction. Sometimes the person who ends up alone is the one who had the courage to tell the truth when everyone else chose the comfortable lie. At 85, I've learned that family secrets don't protect anyone. They just give the guilty people more time to rewrite history. They let manipulators control the narrative while their victims suffer in silence. They turn truth tellers into outcasts and liars into martyrs. For 32 years, I lived with the shame of accusations I knew were false. For 32 years, my children looked at me with suspicion and distance. For 32 years, I carried the weight of Mama's sins along with my own guilt for not stopping her sooner. But that tape recording, it didn't just clear my name. It gave me my children back. It gave them permission to love me again without feeling guilty about betraying Grandmama's memory. It gave us all permission to finally tell the truth about what really happened in that house in 1991. I'm 85 years old, and I finally understand something I wish I had known at 53. You can't love someone into being honest. You can't sacrifice enough to change a manipulator's heart. You can't protect people from someone who's determined to poison them against you. All you can do is tell the truth, document the lies, and wait for the right moment to prove who was really the dangerous one in the room. That moment came 32 years late, but it came. And now, when I look at my children and grandchildren gathered around my table, I see something I hadn't seen since 1991. I see trust. I see love. I see a family that's finally free from the lies that nearly destroyed us. That recording sits in a place of honor on my shelf now, not because I'm proud of what it represents, but because it reminds me that truth always surfaces eventually. Lies might win battles, but they never win wars. Mama thought she had buried the truth with her manipulation and my silence. She thought she had rewritten our family's history permanently. She thought she had turned my children against me forever. She was wrong. Truth has its own timeline, and sometimes that timeline is 32 years long. But when it finally arrives, when it finally speaks, when it finally proves what you've known all along, the vindication is worth every year of pain you carried alone. My children know who I really am now. My grandchildren will grow up knowing their grandmama Dorothy is safe, loving, and honest. And Mama's lies, they died with her. But the truth lives on in a 15-minute recording that saved my family and gave me back my children. At 85, that's enough victory for one lifetime.